Welcome to the OnlyFans Secrets Marketing Podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help both new and established OnlyFans creators learn the basics of online branding, marketing, and promotion to help you make more money with your content and maximize your time online. My name is Richard Lewis, and I have over 20 years of internet marketing experience. All right, so let's get started with today's topic. And that topic is how to get more simps. In this episode of the podcast, we are going to delve together into the world of simps and simping. Most content creators are aware of the concept of simps, but I wanted to do a deep dive into why men simp and how creators can get more simps as well as profit more from the simps that they are currently attracting. So think of this as the ultimate guide to simps. In this episode, I'm going to go over the definition of simping, why people are simping more than ever, why men simp, and how to get more simps for your content creation business. All right, so let's dive right into the topic. But first, as always, you can follow along on the SEO Bounty blog at seobounty.com/blog, or you can go directly to the topic of this podcast at seobounty.com/141. That's seobounty.com/141 for the 141st episode of this podcast. All right, so the concept of simping is not new, but the term itself is. For those not familiar, a simp is a person, typically male, who provides money or other incentives to another person without receiving very much, if anything, in return. The concept has taken off in recent years as the internet has made minor celebrities out of everyone from reality TV stars to Instagram models to gamers, as well as OnlyFans creators as well. Many people desire to have more online simps because they just don't require the effort that someone in real life would. In some instances, a real life sugar daddy or mommy dynamic is time consuming and limits the amount of money that you as a creator can bring in. So I wanted to look at the phenomenon of simping and try to figure out why people are simps, as well as how to bring in more people to simp for you and your OnlyFans business. All right, so let's start with the origins of simps. So why are people simping now more than ever? In the past, we lived in societies that made it hard for anyone attractive to get more than a few people's attention or wealth. If you lived in a town, everyone would know who the attractive people were, and they would likely end up with one wealthy suitor or be courted by several wealthy suitors, and due to society's moral restraints, be forced to choose one for long-term companionship. If you were not one of those wealthy, handsome suitors, you would only be able to look from afar and know that if you attempted to get the attention of someone you were infatuated with, you might end up being beat up or even ridiculed. As social morals have changed, and the majority of people live in urban areas where their comings and goings are not the talk of the town, it makes it easier for people who would otherwise have no opportunity to interact together to be able to do so. That has not changed the gulf of desire or attractiveness between the two people. It has only made it so that less desirable suitors can gain attention just for a smaller price. This, along with the internet's access to someone in a virtual manner, allows for an attractive person to attract hundreds, if not thousands, of ineligible suitors who can now lavish praise and monetary reward on those they like. This gulf is the reason that simping exists. It is a lower barrier of entry to desires than in the past would be a closed door. Now the door is at least propped open enough for people to see but not touch the person of their desire, as well as possibly slide in a few dollars through the crack in the door as well. So let's go over the reasons behind simping one by one, because by understanding the why of something, it makes it a lot easier to profit from it. All right, so one of the reasons why right now is internet fascination. As mentioned, the virtual world of the internet allows for people to become fixated on someone of their desire and that they would have unlikely ever met or even gotten the time of day from in the past. It also makes it so that someone with no drive or motivation that wouldn't normally attract such a partner can simply buy their way into their lives. As you can imagine, this juxtaposition between reality and fantasy is where simping lies. Much like a drug that makes you feel much better than you normally would, being infatuated with someone online will give you the same sensations. Studies have proven that our minds often react to dreams and simulated games the same way they would if things were really happening to us in real life. So the dopamine hit that a person gets from interacting with you as an OnlyFans creator virtually cause the person to want to get more and more of their fix. So someone's fascination can turn into infatuation, which in turn will create an opportunity for an OnlyFans creator to make a lot of money off of only a few dedicated people. Think about the times when you were in love in real life. You would do anything to see that person or to interact with them. In the real world, men are used to spending money to take a person out on a date or on an activity in hopes of wooing them. This same ritual plays out online in the virtual world, although the man in this scenario doesn't get to actually touch you, and they understand they will never be able to date or possess you. Right, the second one would be people's misconception of their own appeal and attractiveness. Yes, most people have egos that are unjustified. People tend to rate their own attractiveness much higher than other people rate them, especially people who are delusional. This is similar to the Dunning-Kruger effect, which describes how incompetent people are more likely to overestimate their own competency. As you can imagine, people that are delusional will be more open to a virtual world where they are fed the words they want to hear, even if they have to pay for it. You can see how a system like this will feed on itself. Add to that the fact that most women find men with money to be more attractive overall. Basically, it lends itself to a huge gap between attractiveness between male and female partners. Often, other men will see pictures of couples and not realize that the woman is with a less attractive man because of his money or status. This will lead men to believe that they can get that super attractive model, and they will often pay to do so. As I've stated before, most men would prefer to chase after a highly attractive woman they'll never get than to settle for an average woman. All right, the next reason is endless selection of mates and partners. One big difference over the last 20 years has been the absolute endless selection that most people now have when deciding to choose a partner. Yes, big cities have existed for a long time with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. But even in those big cities, people typically stayed in certain areas of the city designated for their ethnic group or social class group. If someone was looking for a partner, they might take the recommendations of their family members or a small circle of friends. If someone was in a small or medium-sized town, there might be only a handful of people their age to couple with, and the social pressure to get married and have children was much higher than it is now. So today people can download an app and within minutes have thousands of potential mates and partners. What a huge change that has been in such a short amount of time. I did a whole podcast episode on how I believe OnlyFans to be swipe left Tinder, meaning a place where all men who get rejected on a daily basis on Tinder for not being in the top 1% of the most appealing men go to still interact with attractive women. And if you have never listened to that episode, I highly recommend that you do so. So imagine being rejected that much all the time by the opposite sex. It can be exhausting for some people. So they decide to go online to sites like OnlyFans, where they can simp and get the woman's attention who wouldn't look twice at them on a dating site. All right, so the next reason is pandemic and self-isolation. While simping was certainly going on before the pandemic in 2020, the self-isolation that the worldwide pandemic caused certainly made the concept a bit more appealing. Many people had thought that virtual relationships were a joke beforehand, but they became more popular and sometimes the only way people were able to interact with each other. So handing money over to strangers for virtual video chats or content became more popular and more socially acceptable than ever. Self-isolation due to the pandemic left many people with no options but to simp for someone online as they had no other outlet for their passions. This has continued even as the pandemic has ebbed and flowed in severity. As now that people are able to go back to normal dating, they have become hooked on the dopamine fix that very attractive OnlyFans and online content creators have given them. Once someone finds something or someone that they like, they tend to stick with that person due to the pain of rejection they might get from someone in real life once they leave their isolation. And then lastly would be hookup culture and the single male epidemic. Hookup culture has emerged from online apps and dating sites that value looks and visual attraction over almost everything else. This has created a group of men who cannot compete on dating apps because they are not attractive to the majority of those looking to hook up. You can imagine this leaves a large segment of the population single and frustrated. With a lot of studies saying that most women find only 10% of men dateable or attractive on sites like Tinder, it's no wonder there are so many single men. These single men still have wants, needs, and desires that they want fulfilled. This is where online simping can fill the gap for them while they are single. For most men, they won't be single forever, and simping provides them entertainment between relationships. For a small group of men, though, they have given up on dating or don't really want a relationship at all. These men prefer online streamers, cammers, and OnlyFans creators. This creates a large opportunity for those creators who provide girlfriend-like experiences online as well as spicy content. The trend towards staying single for men is only growing as they see there are ways to get intimacy online without having to commit to anyone in particular. All right, so now that we know why simping has become more popular recently, we have to ask ourselves the question, why do men simp? So we have to get to the core of why individual males themselves decide to become simps. In order to maximize your effectiveness as a content creator, actually understanding the psychology of your customer is very important. It will help you find new simps as well as keep those simps around that currently buy from you. So let's review some of the key causes of simping. All right. 1, loneliness. So I mentioned loneliness first